Welcome once again, nerds, to the news. This is the only pop culture and nerdy news show that is worth talking about, at least in my opinion. This week in the news, we have a reunion for The Sword in music. We have Gaming and Tech bringing us another Assassin's Creed update that is sure to piss off plenty more people. In comic books, the Batman books are about to cross a line that you really can't come back from. Harry Potter TV series just took a pretty significant step forward. We have spoiler confirmation, possibly, in the new trailer from Deadpool and Wolverine. We'll talk about that in a bit more. Plus, speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine, rumor has it that there is about to be an epic battle that Wolverine fights in this movie. If you want to believe the rumor mill, we'll get to that and, like I said, a bunch more in this kind of extra long episode. Maybe not extra long, but still longer episode. Let's jump into it, nerds. Music news. This week we have The Sword reuniting for a single show, but still The Sword reuniting. We have an update on the Shifty Shell Shock passing, sadly, and some new rap music to talk about in the new music section, and quite a bit more, honestly, so let's do this. Each section starts with follow-ups and corrections. This week is no exception to that. We do have a follow-up on the Shifty Shell Shock passing. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the fact that one of the vocalists for the band Crazy Town, who goes by the name Shifty Shell Shock, Seth Blintzer, I believe is his actual name, was his actual name, sadly. Toxicology report has come back, and it is exactly what we were all expecting, because it has been known that he has suffered with addiction issues in the past. He's been on, very public about his issues with addiction. And that is what it was, an accidental overdose, is what the toxicology report has concluded. So sad that his wife and 3 kids, who are still around, they are no longer with their father and husband. And at this point, it's kind of just thoughts and prayers, because that is rough. Now let's get into the new music stuff, shall we? Kind of bring things up a little bit. Starting things in new music and videos, we have Slaughter to Prevail releasing new videos. Well, I say new. They actually were a pay-per-view event they did on their website, so if you pay to see their live and live stuff, you already have seen this release, but they have now released it to free streaming services. So it's on Spotify audio. I believe even the video might be on Spotify. I did not verify that, so you can check yourself, but at least the audio is there. And then on YouTube, you can see each song individually, or go up to their channel, I'm sure it's in a playlist, or you can go choose their website to see the free VOD episode as well. So that's pretty freaking cool. If you've never seen Slaughter to Prevail, this is a little bit of a taste of what you could get at a show. Definitely not the same if you're not actually in the crowd for their performances, but you'll at least be able to see a bird's eye view of what that looks like, and so you know how to go. Alright, from there, let's talk about a new music video that has released this week for a song called Beast Inside from the band Il Nino. We've talked about El Nino a number of times on the channel. They had a very public split with a number of the members, and then there was a fight over the name, and then this is the side that won the fight, which is not the original vocalist. This is a new guy. We've already gone over all this information, but this new song is kind of back to that old sound, which is why that was on my brain. Back to the old sound that I remember hearing when I saw them at Ozfest forever ago, in like 2004 or something. If you like a little bit of the radio side of the aggressive music, then Il Nino's kind of one of the better ones to do it when they're on their game. They're not always on their A game, but this is kind of an example of them being on their A game. So go check out Beast Inside from El Nino. It's pretty solid. Now let's talk about a couple of rap videos, shall we? First up, we have Tech Nine has released a new track called The Birth. Tech Nine has not really been somebody that I've listened to extensively, so I will kind of preface it that way. I have listened to him a little bit, and you know, I've always kind of had a certain idea of who Tech Nine is in my brain. Probably a lot of people who are only casual listeners have something similar in that he always comes across to me as like aggressive and very rapid fire, which you know, nothing wrong with that. You can still get some really quality stuff out of those two things. Nothing against the style at all, but that's just kind of how he was pigeonholed in my brain. This track, The Birth, is not really that. There's a little bit of that, but really, this is kind of feels nostalgic in a lot of ways. This feels like some of the rap that I listened to when I was a kid growing up in Georgia. Like this is not what I expected, but this is still really good. So I am absolutely going to recommend The Birth and Tech Nine if you're into the rap stuff. Next up, but still talking about the rap stuff, we are talking about the new release from Eminem, Toby. So we did not talk about his previous single on the channel, Houdini, because didn't really like it. I know sometimes we talk about music that we don't like, but there's reasoning for that, just so we can, you know, kind of juxtapose and find it. So Houdini isn't necessarily a bad track, it's just not one that I really got into. So there was nothing to learn from it, no argument to be made there, just not my cup of tea. Toby, however, which is featuring Big Sean and Baby Tron, easily a better track than Houdini. Not because of the guest vocalist, the guest rapper, the guest spots, I guess it's called. I don't know exactly what the terminology is because I'm not in the scene, but the other dudes who are rapping on the track, it's kind of short there, and there's nothing wrong with their performances. They're actually quite good, but the performance of favorite rapper, so maybe it's because he had somebody else on the track, so he felt like he had to step up. Maybe it's just because the Houdini track was just a radio single and wasn't meant to go beyond that. But this just kind of exemplifies the skill that M has that brings in people from all over, not just the white guys who are trying to get into rap or the really deep old heads, I think is the terminology. Nothing like that. This is just like dudes showing like, yeah, these younger kids have never heard of Baby Tron. I definitely heard of Big Sean before though. So like he's bringing in the newer talent and being like, yeah, these guys are cool and it's like that I got a Tiger song is playing in my head on repeat. I've been knocked down so many times, can't count. Sometimes she does not pan out. That's just the way that the card hands out. John Man's out, odd man out. Heavyweight word the sky fan pelt. I can't help but feel like a victim of child abuse because I stuff. And then we have a really interesting track. The name of the band and the name of the song are German, so I'm definitely going to butcher them and do it is what it is, so I'll give it an attempt. The name of the band is TURMION KÄTILÖT, maybe? And the name of the song is Schlachter. It's featuring Chris Harms, who is the vocalist from Lord and Love. So that's kind of why I actually clicked on it. I mean, the algorithm suggested why is because I'm a big Lord of the Lost. So with that in mind, we definitely have left the rap behind us. Now we're leaning into some crazy German industrial metal. This is a little chaotic. If you're watching the video, which all the links can be found down in the description, if you're watching the video, it is definitely hard to watch. Not just because of the strobing effect that happens, which again, the seizure warning, there is a pretty wicked strobing effect throughout the entire video. But like there's just some gross out stuff in there. There's the quote unquote shocking things that they use imagery-wise. It's just kind of played out when it comes to that kind of stuff. Has been played out since like the 90s, to be quite honest. But as far as the content of the song, this is really solid German industrial. Like if you're into industrial music at all, you will really dig this. If you're looking for a good example of something to get into industrial, because you kind of heard about it, never really gave it much of a chance, and this is a pretty decent track to start with. These dudes are doing something special. And Chris Harms being part of the project, just kind of icing on the cake, because he's fantastic in and of himself, and just the extra vocals aren't exactly needed, but not really wasted either. So go check it out. I'm not going to try and pronounce the band name or the song name again, but definitely go check it out. Link in the description. Now, our final new piece of music is Memphis Mayfire released a new track called Paralyzed. Memphis Mayfire, metalcore, kind of stands standard bearers at this point. They've been around for some time, but they've kind of evolved with the genre as it changed. So I would say that there are newer bands a little bit better than them in the subgenre. This, though, is kind of there's nothing necessarily exceptional about it as far as like they're not really pushing the genre in any one direction. They're just delivering a solid gut punch with this new metalcore stuff. And yeah, I absolutely dig it. It's very well produced, as would be expected at this point in their career, and the videos just nothing, again, exciting to write about there, but kind of just quality metalcore. If you're just looking for another song to add to the list, absolutely recommend. If you're not really into metalcore, though, this isn't changing your mind. Let's talk about tours and festivals now, shall we? We have a couple of pretty cool ones. First up, we have Deicide. The name of the tour is Banished by Sin. They're going out in support of Christian, Inferi, and Cloak is going to be supporting on this tour. Starts September 5th in Atlanta, Georgia. Runs through October 11th in Tampa, Florida. Tickets will be on sale this Friday, July 5th. Link in the description will take you there when they are on sale, so go check it out. The next tour that was announced this week is Tenacious D, and tour might be a little bit of a strong word for this. It's only 5 dates. They're all at the end of October. It's over the course of 2 weeks they're doing these 5 dates, and I didn't write down where any of the dates were. You can click the link if you're into the D, which, I mean, a lot of people really are, for good reason. Jack Black, Kyle Gass do some fantastic stuff. Even though it is funny, it is still very talented. Yeah, go click the link if you're interested. It is not going a lot of places. 5 dates is not a lot, and it's not very wide dates either. So they're not going to go like New York one date and then LA the next date and then Chicago the next. It's nothing like that. It's all fairly expected, I guess you could say. Either way, go check it out. Just don't get your hopes up. And then our final one, this one is going everywhere in North America. It's at the very least, but I'm pretty sure it's a North American tour. Wage War, I'm burying the lead. Wage War has announced they're going out on tour. They are taking Era, Throne, and Fame on Fire. I've not heard of Fame on Fire, but Wage War, Era, and Throne are all incredible bands that are doing fantastic things, incredible young bands that are doing fantastic things in their respective genres. Wage War is kind of the new face of metalcore. They're the ones that are kind of experimenting with the genre a little bit more than the rest. Era are the new standard bearers for metalcore. They are kind of what most other metalcore is measured against these days. And Throne is not metalcore. They are just damn good hardcore. And we talked about them. They were a suggestion about a month or so ago for the music section. And yeah, there's a reason for that. They're just really, really good. Again, never heard of Fame on Fire, but this tour starts September 26th in St. Paul, Minnesota, runs through November 3rd in Atlanta, Georgia. And yeah, like I said, there are a bunch of dates on this one, so there should be somewhere near you. If you follow the link in the description, you can do that. That's what we got for tours and festivals. Let's talk about news. Our first piece of regular ass news comes from, it's a touring related thing, kind of, in that it's Sick of It All. They're the old school OG hardcore band Sick of It All. Their frontman Lou Koller was recently diagnosed with an esophageal tumor. So he has a tumor in his throat. And so they had to cancel their European tour. There is a link down in the description for the GoFundMe if you want to help Lou raise funds to take care of this thing. It very well could be career ending because it's esophagus. It's reaching all the way down into his stomach. So this is going to be really rough for the dudes and Sick of It All. Definitely hope everything goes well, but that's all we have for the update. Go check out the GoFundMe if you can help support Do. Don't overreach though. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money, and you can just give your thoughts and well wishes and so on and so forth. So let's move on. From there, we have Adema is in the news. This is a band I didn't think we were going to be talking about ever again since we talked about them last, which was, I think, like a year ago. But they recently split with their current vocalist. They also recently signed to Cleopatra Records, which means they're putting out a new record as a 4-piece. We are in a world that is revitalizing things from when millennials were young. So Adema was kind of a thing when millennials were young. Though the argument could be made that the reason they were a thing is because their vocalist at that time was the stepbrother to Jonathan Davis from Korn. So that might have had its hand a little bit in their success, though they're still alive and kicking. So I'm kind of interested to see what they put out as a 4-piece. That's all we really got there. Let's move to our final piece of regular ass news, and this is the big one. This is The Sword reuniting doom metal stalwarts. I don't even know where you would put them as far as like just kind of an exemplary example of the prime example, I guess maybe is more appropriate, of the genre of doom metal. The Sword is just one of those bands that comes around once in a lifetime. The fact that they broke up 2 years really sucks 2 years ago. And now they're reuniting for a single show. That single show is going to take place as part of the Levitation Festival. It is a 3-day festival. November 3rd is the day that they're going to be performing at the festival. And yeah, you can find tickets and such if you follow the link in the description. It's pretty freaking cool. Go check it out. That's what we got for regular ass news this week. So that brings us into our suggestion. Suggestion for music this week is Eve 6 Horoscope, their second record. Not the first record, which has the song that basically everybody knows, Inside Out. I would swallow my pride, I would choke on the rhymes, but the lack. Not that record. We're talking about the record that followed it. Because I honestly feel like their second record was a lot more solid from start to finish. Some standout tracks on this record are Promise, Here's to the Night, which is their other giant hit. Also On the Roof Again, which is one of my favorites absolutely on this record. It's one of those that just gets stuck in my head. And Jetpack is the other one that really gets stuck in my head. With a jetpack strapped to your back. Go listen to Eve 6 Horoscope. It's not as aggressive as the stuff we generally suggest here on the channel, but it is so much fun to listen to, especially if you have a bit of a soft spot for 90s alt punk, then that's going to do it for you. Okay, so gaming and tech. We have Capcom Next was a thing that happened over the weekend. We got some Dead Rising news out of that. That's pretty freaking awesome. Assassin's Creed is going to be modernizing older games, which has never gone over poorly in the past. Read the sarcasm. And then Nintendo thinks they have the Switch 2 launch figured out because they don't think there's going to be much of a scalping issue this time around like there was with the original Switch. So all of that and a little bit more. Let's get into gaming and tech. Starting things off with Starfield. We have a follow-up for Starfield. Bethesda has fixed some issues with the creations side of Starfield. They're trying to make it resemble more closely the Skyrim creations, and it's kind of fairly minor at this point, so nothing that's going to fix any of the issues that most of the community has with Starfield. Still to this day, is that patch coming? Who knows yet? Probably not, but I don't know. We'll see. But this isn't it. So either way, if you had issues with creations, they should be fixed at this point. That brings us into trailers, which also brings us into the Capcom Next conversation. Capcom Next happened over the weekend, got us the trailer for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, which DR, right? Ooh, that's kind of silly. Anyway, so September 18th is when it's launching. This is going to be just basically a reskinning of the original game. They're going to change the control scheme, so it'll feel a little bit more modern with the control scheme. But as far as story goes, it doesn't look like they're adding anything content-wise to the game. Are there going to be new Easter eggs in it? Probably. But is it going to be like significantly different story? No, not bloody likely. But I mean, the updating of the visuals and the updating of the gameplay, the mechanics of the gameplay, I think is going to be enough because this game is pretty solid in and of itself. So yeah, like I said, the launch is September 19th. It is coming out for PlayStation 5 as well as Xbox Series consoles and PC. And the other noteworthy thing about this is it is only going to be $50. It's not going to be $60 like we've seen a lot of other remasters coming out at. It's definitely not going to be $70, which a lot of the modern gaming games are coming out at. And anything beyond that's really just out of the question. But Capcom Next, the only other significant thing really to come out of the Capcom Next presentation from the weekend was Resident Evil. They confirmed that Resident Evil 9 is in active development right now, and that's kind of it. So let's move on. We have some regular ass news we're going to get into now. The big one here, Assassin's Creed. So Ubisoft has announced that they are going to be remastering older Assassin's Creed games to quote unquote modernize them. That's not a red flag, really? Is it? Oh, it is? Of course it is, because we saw what they did with the Assassin's Creed Shadow, whatever the hell, where they they took an actual historical figure, which is cool, and they did something very not historically accurate with it, which is kind of a little bit dumb, but I don't know. Gameplay wise, I haven't seen anything from it because I don't think it's launched at this point, but I'm not keeping that close of tabs on it necessarily. It just feels a little like, yeah, you're stretching it a little bit. You definitely are trying to just check those boxes. And then they're going to kind of extend that to their older games now by modernizing them. That just feels wrong in so many levels. Let's move on, shall we? Our other piece of news this week has to do with the Nintendo Switch 2. The investors' call happened over the last week. And the Shuntaro Furukawa, who is the president of Nintendo right now, not the, I was thinking for a second president of America, but it's not the Nintendo of America, it's Nintendo as a whole. He outlined some measures that they're going to be taking to prevent scalping when it comes to the release of the Nintendo Switch 2, which they still have not officially announced exactly what that is going to entail. We'll get to that at the end though. So the two big things here that they're going to do to combat scalpers, the two big things that are in play rather, that they're going to utilize to combat scalpers is one, and the first one leads into the second one. One is that the semiconductor shortage has been taken care of. It is no longer an issue. Because if you remember back when the Nintendo Switch originally launched, there was a semiconductor shortage and that lasted for some time. So it was very difficult to get your hands on a Nintendo Switch, which honestly is probably part of the reason why they're still selling so well, because it was so long before most people get their hands on them. So that's been taken care of. It is no longer an issue. They have plenty of semiconductors, very likely because they started going into production much earlier this generation, which then leads us into the second thing is they plan on launching on day one with many more consoles than they have with previous console launches. It sounds like they're at the very least trying to get more than the original Switch, though I would venture they're going to like GameCube levels of day one console numbers. So yeah, those both are going to go a long way to stop scalpers from buying up as many as they can and then selling them for triple the price. So and then the recap for the announcement of the Nintendo Switch. We did get confirmation earlier this year that there is going to be a proper announcement for the successor console to the Nintendo Switch, right now being dubbed by the media as Nintendo Switch 2, but likely that won't be the name. A Super Switch? I don't know. But it's going to happen by the end of the fiscal year for Nintendo. So if you'll remember, fiscal year is not the end of the calendar year. The end of the calendar year is December. End of the fiscal year for Nintendo is March. So very likely the end of the winter is when we are going to get the proper announcement of the Nintendo Switch successor. All right, that is what we have for regular ass news. This week's suggestion for gaming and tech is an OG Super Nintendo game. Honestly, just because I really dig platformers. Donkey Kong Country, original Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo, I believe is up on NSO right now. You can download it if you are paying the monthly fee to get those kinds of things. Or you can emulate it because you probably have a copy of it that you've paid for, and so that's technically not illegal. Or you can just, play the HD remaster of the Wii, or the Switch game is the one that's getting remastered, which isn't going to be the same, or Wii. I had it right. This is just platforming at honestly one of its best iterations. The two of the best platforming games ever released both exist on the Super Nintendo. Obviously, I'm talking about Super Mario World as well as Donkey Kong Country OG, and that is your suggestion for the week. If you've never played it before, then this is the height of platform gaming. This is just really, really good stuff.
Why do I get the impression you forgot to push the subscribe button? I mean, it's free, so go ahead and do that, and, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks. We'll get back to the show now. Okay, bye.
Comic books in books this week. We have Batman issue number 150 is very likely about to cross a line you just can't come back from, as well as the relaunch story for the X-Men is going to be changing the Sentinels in a new book, as well as new G.I. Joe book in the Transformers universe that we've been talking about. That's pretty freaking exciting. Let's get into it. Comic books, we're going to start with some follow-ups here, nerds. We have Moon Knight in the follow-up section. Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu number 1, set for release in October, is finally going to see a proper new book for Mark Spector since the resurrection that happened. Oh, what was the name of that story arc? I just lost my place. Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt is where he was first resurrected, but that wasn't about him specifically. This is going to be about him specifically. We talked about this when it was originally announced that they were killing him, that very likely they would be bringing him back, and here we are. They're bringing him back. That's what we got for follow-ups and corrections. From there, let's get into some regular-ass news. No trailers, sadly, but regular-ass news it is. And the big one in this week is Batman episode, issue number 150. So in the previous issue, regular-ass street thug found the secret identity of Batman and is now threatening to expose it to all of Gotham. I didn't write down because I was kind of seething when I took the notes for this, so I didn't write down who the writer is or who the artist is, but the artist is a little less important than the writer because the writer is the one who puts these things into motion. So the suggestion in the synopsis of this issue is that Bruce is contemplating whether or not he cares if people know his secret identity. So we have 80 years of lore just right out the window, just gone, just absolutely, who cares? Like, this is not why you're reading Batman, is it? The fact that he's struggling with these two different identities, technically three different identities, and how to balance them all, that's not why you're reading Batman, right? Or the detective work, how a regular street thug broke into Wayne Manor and saw just Batman things lying about. That has nothing, that's not like diminishing this superhero that is one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. That doesn't diminish his reputation at all, does it? What? Yeah, so there is a little bit of a silver lining in that the book has not come out yet, so we don't know 100% that it is going to go in that direction. We don't know 100% that he is going to just be like, yeah, I think people should know who I am at this point. If that is where it goes, then I basically have just written off DC Comics entirely, because that's insane. We don't know that 100% that is actually where it is going to end up. So crossing fingers that they don't just, destroy their comic book sales in a single issue. Continuing, let's talk now about Sentinels, moving over to Marvel side of things. New book called Sentinels is coming out. It's going to be a new miniseries starting in October. The writer is Alex Packnadel, and art by Justin Mason. It's going to basically be re-envisioning the Sentinels and how they work. It's following actual people who then become cyborgs effectively and call themselves Sentinels and hunt down mutants instead of just the completely robotic Sentinels that we already know. So that's really interesting. I'm really intrigued by where this is going. Variant covers is kind of irrelevant. That doesn't have anything to do with the chunk of the story, the meat of the story. So that's what we got for Sentinels. Sorry, getting lost in my notes. Our next one is G.I. Joe Inside Transformers. It is coming from Skybound and Image Comics because they're teaming up to do this G.I. Joe Transformers shared universe. It's in my notes, I swear it is. But Energon universe. This is going to be a mostly G.I. Joe centric story. So it's going to be very little on the Transformers side of things, which is kind of why I felt like it was super interesting. This one comes out November 13th is when it'll be on shelves. The writer for this is Joshua Williamson, who's done some pretty solid stuff. Maybe not the best stuff, but some solid stuff. Art from Tom Riley. Again, November 13th is when it will be on shelves. And then our other new book announced this week was Mystique. Marvel has brought Mystique back to her own series once again, written and illustrated both by Declan Shalvey, will be launching also in October. This is all of this Marvel stuff It has to do with the From Ashes relaunch, which we talked about when it was originally announced. They had those 3 X-Men books that are launching first thing, and now we're kind of evolving past that. So this one is going to be a 5-issue mini. And it's going to be more of the espionage stuff that was in the previous Mystique solo book. So that's kind of what the fans were really reading Mystique for anyway. So that's kind of cool. It's post-Krakoa, obviously. We have Nick Fury is going to be the antagonist for this story. You can't say the villain because it's Nick Fury versus Mystique. Technically, Mystique is kind of the villain, but whatever. Again, we have release date is in October, and that's all we got on that one. So that is the end of this week's news. Let's get into suggestions for comic books and books. It's another book suggestion just to celebrate, because last week the suggestion was Interview with the Vampire, for TV rather. The TV show has now ended. Now go back and read the books that it came from. Interview with the Vampire, 1976 is when Anne Rice published the book the first time, and it's kind of intriguing how well it stands up in modern literature. The Interview with the Vampire, I mean, there are going to be, if you only are familiar with the movie or even just the TV show, there's going to be some pretty dramatic differences between the book and the live action iterations, but I still would put, I mean, like I said previously, the TV show is right up there with the book, but you gotta read the book to know why that is. It's just, her prose are so beautiful, and just the world that she builds around these vampires is so intricate and dark and twisted and all beautiful all at the same time. Yeah, just read Interview with the Vampire. That is your suggestion for the week. Let's cut away from the news for just a second to thank the gracious partner with the channel, DUBBY. This week we are testing this month approximately, we're testing the Cali-O Cream DUBBY. It is an orange creamsicle flavored energy drink mix. It is, I mean, the guys at DUBBY honestly are doing wonderful things. A, just because they're so supportive of the creator community, but B, because they're just doing really tasty drinks. Our last one was the Push and Punch, and if you like fruit punch, this one's got a little bit of an edge to it, just a little something different, but still really delicious. The Cali-O Cream technically is mango and orange, but the mango is kind of there to accent the orange, so it tastes even more orangey. And yeah, I totally am digging it. This is probably my favorite orange cream flavored energy drink out there, and it's kind of my favorite drink flavor for a lot of reasons in general. I just really like orange cream, so super stoked to have found the Cali-O Cream from DUBBY because it's delicious. DUBBY is not just caffeine. DUBBY is a little bit more. There's nootropics in here to help you keep with the focus, because most energy drinks just expect you to do okay with the caffeine, which is the stimulant. And I mean, stimulant's a stimulant, and so stimulant's a stimulant. It doesn't actually do as much as we want it to. It does help you focus, but without the added nootropics, it's not exactly enough for most people. So the added nootropics in DUBBY kind of help you with the keep to the job at hand, if you will. So yeah, pretty excited that they are willing to partner with the channel. I'm super stoked to bring them in, and yeah, let's just go buy some DUBBY. There is a link down in the video description, and don't forget to use code GenerallyNerdy at checkout, and you get 10% off. You get 10% off every time you use the Generally Nerdy code. So they do, from time to time, do extended offers where you get more than just the 10%. So when that happens, I'll let you know. But right now we're only at 10%, and I mean, still, that's gonna make it so that your DUBBY drinks are cheaper than anything else on the market as far as the cans go. So yeah, do yourself a favor, grab a tub of DUBBY from the website. Again, link in the description. And now let's, jump back into the news. TV. This week in TV and series, we have confirmation that we have all been expecting from The Boys Season 5. We also have the Harry Potter Max series has taken a step forward as far as getting to production, and Hit Monkey Season 2 just launched a trailer that has a pretty notable change in it. So we're going to get to that and a little bit more. Let's get into TV. Follow-ups is where most of TV is going to happen this week. We do have a couple trailers, but no regular ass news to talk about. So follow-ups it is. First up, we have The Boys. Season 5, we have confirmation that there will be a Jared Padalecki role of some sort in season 5. So now we have a full-on Supernatural reunion going on because Eric Kripke did Supernatural, and we have Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who was their dad, who was the dad to the boys. We have Jensen Ackles playing Soldier Boy, and now we're going to get Jared Padalecki playing Mysterious Role. It has not been announced exactly who Padalecki will be playing, but when it does get announced, we will be talking about it. From there, let's move over to the Harry Potter series, the reboot series that is going to HBO Max, or Max, if you will. It just secured a showrunner and a director for a majority of the episodes. So the new showrunner and writer is going to be Francesca Gardner, who you'll know her from Succession, also on Max, as well as His Dark Materials, also on Max. And then the director for multiple episodes, quote unquote, is going to be Mark Malloy, who also worked on Succession, also worked on Game of Thrones. So pretty great nerd credentials here. The Francesca is going to be showrunner and executive producer. I think Malloy is also going to be Malloy is also going to be an executive producer on the project. So pretty good hands at this point. We don't know much else as far as like how it is going to adapt the books just yet, so we'll be keeping tabs here. Moving from there though, let's get into trailers this week. This week's trailers, our first one is season 6, part 1 of Cobra Kai. Launch date is July 18th. This one is going to do a lot to get you hype for the first part of this season because it just looks that damn good. And then the other trailer that we have this week is Hitmonkey. Hitmonkey, if you remember, Hitmonkey released before the Fox buyout by Disney, before Disney bought all of the Fox IPs, before they bought Fox outright anyway, and inherited the IPs. So season 1 happened just before that did. So it was up in the air whether or not we're actually going to get a season 2 or how they're going to do a season 2, because Hitmonkey's kind of a violent show, kind of an adult animated show, if you will. So season 2 is going to be on Hulu, just like the previous season was. But season 2 now carries the Marvel Studios logo at the beginning of the credits, which means they're really expanding into some of this stuff that like the fans are really responding to, which is a good sign. It's not a definitive sign that they're doing great things, but it's a good sign that they are thinking of doing great things, at the very least. So, I mean, there are these little bits and pieces that give us hope. It's just why we keep giving Marvel second and third and 10th chances. The release date for season 2, Hitmonkey, is July 15th. Go watch the trailer. It looks like a lot of fun. That's what we got for trailers. Like I said, no regular ass news this week to speak of, so let's get into suggestions for the week. And this week's suggestion TV, you probably saw this coming if you are a longtime viewer of the channel, but The Bear Season 3 has launched. FX, Hulu, whatever you got to do to watch it. It is worth your time. Season 3, a little bit more so than Season 2 almost, but not as much as Season 1, is very much, if you work in the food industry, super stress-inducing. But also so representative. I mean, there's artistic license, sure. It's not quite as dramatic as they make it seem in this show. I've been doing it for 20 years. Like, I can see where somebody that has something to do with this, which, and if you look into the people who are producing and writing and so on and so forth, there are a lot of people involved here that have food experience, that have culinary experience. So that really, really shows. And then on top of that, it is also just exceptionally well done with the cinematography. Just like, this is art movie levels of cinematography. This is just like, the story is compelling, but it's also really great visually. Like, it's very appealing to the eyes. You don't need the sound on to get the gist of what's going on screen. Like, it is so well done on so many levels. And if I don't stop gushing now, I never will. So go watch The Bear Season 3. That is your suggestion for TV this week.
Subscribe. That is all.
And now we talk movies. This week in movie, we have Denis Villeneuve's third Dune movie has a update that you won't want to miss. Plus, we have Deadpool and Wolverine might have just spoiled an appearance. We're going to talk about that in the most recent trailer. And then Mortal Kombat 2 test screening has happened really, really early, but still really, really interesting. So we're going to get to all of that plus a little bit more this week in movies. Follows and corrections is what starts off the sections, and that is where we're going with this one. Dune 3, presumably Dune Messiah from Denis Villeneuve, now has an official release date. We have December 18th of 2026. Which should be fairly significant to those that have been paying attention, because that is also the release date of a potential Disney Star Wars movie. Warner Brothers is just saying, all right, Disney, let's go. Let's have at it. Let's do this. Let's go, to quote a Disney movie that's about to come out. So yeah, December 18th, we are going to get the third installment of Denis Villeneuve's interpretation of the Dune franchise, and I can't wait. It's going to be so good. All right, so that's our only follow-up or correction. Let's talk about trailers this week. We have a couple of noteworthy trailers. The first one being the new Hellboy movie, Hellboy Crooked Man. I saw a lot of hate in the comment, well, maybe not in the comments, but on Twitter, X. I saw a lot of hate thrown at this because people are saying it looks bad or Hellboy isn't red enough. But it's like, I think we're focusing on the wrong things here. This looks like it's potentially going to have a little bit more coherence than the last iteration we got. Definitely not going to be to the same level of the Benicio or the Guillermo del Toro iteration of the story, but still better than the last one, which I guess is kind of all we can really expect out of this one. But on top of that expectation, it looks like there's going to be some legitimate horror elements to this one. So it's going to be a legitimate horror comic book movie, if you will, which we've kind of been waiting for since that New Mutants debacle that happened a couple years back, right? So I'm kind of hoping for some good stuff. And for those that don't recognize him, I didn't recognize him. Jack Casey is playing Hellboy. No nerdy credits to his name really to speak of. So just hopefully he's got the acting chops to do the thing. Otherwise, Ron Perlman's going to have to be 80 years old in that red makeup in order to please the community. But that's what we got for that one. Go check out the trailer. It's really legitimately worth a watch, even just for the conversation piece that it brings. From there, our next one is Deadpool and Wolverine. All right, so Deadpool Wolverine dropped a new trailer. We haven't got the final trailer just yet, which everyone is waiting for the final trailer because the expectation is the final release trailer is going to have the Deadpool core in it. So Lady Deadpool, Kid Pool, Head Pool, Dog Pool, etc., 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 that we know are supposed to be in this movie are all going to be showcased, hopefully, in the final trailer. This is not the final trailer. This is the second trailer. And the big spoiler, quote unquote, here is Sabretooth, apparently. Like, we knew Sabretooth was going to be in this movie. Like, it's not, I mean, it's going to be Tyler Mane again, so that's pretty cool. And he actually has a speaking part as well, so also pretty great. Just like, this wasn't a spoiler. Anyone who's been paying attention knows that Sabretooth is going to be in this. So that's not really, I don't know why everybody keeps labeling this as a spoiler. I did it for the clickbait, and I'm sorry, but it is what it is. The other thing noteworthy about Deadpool right now is previously they were expecting $200 million opening weekend. They have dropped that to something slightly more realistic in that they're now expecting 165 million. I honestly think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I would not be surprised to see it get up to about 180 million. To see it get over to 200 million or beyond, I think is going to be crazy and insane, and I mean, I hope it does that, but that's not the expectation. I will not be surprised though to see it get pretty damn close to that. So yeah, we'll see though when it happens. I'm no expert in the field. I just, have been watching this kind of stuff for about 20 years. That's what we got there for Deadpool Wolverine. Let's talk about the other one, which actually the movie is now open, so you can go watch it. But I just had to talk about Quiet Place Day One. This new trailer looks bonkers and just does so much in order to get you hyped for this movie. Like, I feel like I really need to go see it now, legitimately. Like, I wanted to go see it before this trailer came out, and with this trailer, it's like, I know I need to see this in theaters because that element is just going to be lost when I watch it at home, because I will be watching this at home because I really like this franchise. But yeah, go watch it. Let me know what you think. So that's what we got for trailers this week. Let's move into regular ass news. First up, we have a new comic book franchise movie. It is coming from Boom Studios. Yeah, Boom Studios. The name of the book that is being adapted is A Vicious Circle. Noteworthy here is that Ryan Coogler is being brought in to do it. He's teaming with Mattson Tomlin, who wrote the comic, who also co-wrote the Matt Reeves Batman movies. He also describes the book as John Wick meets Looper, which is crazy. I've never read A Vicious Circle, but Coogler is noteworthy because he does pretty solid work. Like, I'm a bit of a fan, maybe not of everything he's done, but the things that I've seen of his are still pretty damn good. Like, say what you will about Black Panther, it's directed very well. Anyway, yeah, Mattson Tomlin also really love what he did with Batman, so this very well could shape up to be something fantastic. And when was the last time we got a Boom Studios comic book movie? Like, that just doesn't happen very often. And then our other big piece of news has to do with Mortal Kombat, because of course it does. Mortal Kombat 2, the second movie in the new version of the story for movies, has had test screenings. Now, it's not supposed to launch until 2026, so there's still plenty of time to fix the issues with this. But a couple of things that were 2025, the end of 2025, but still 2025. So it's still plenty of time. Some of the big takeaways from what people are saying that have participated in the test screening, because this is early test screening, early beta footage, so like none of the special effects are in there. I believe they're even without music at this point, so it's just a pretty dry watching experience by comparison to where it's going to be when it's done. But it sounds like a lot of this story kind of excludes the characters that we established in the first movie. Some of this I cannot confirm, but we do have enough to confirm that the rest of it is like rumor mill fodder, but we're not going to get into that this week in the rumor mill just because we're talking about it here. But the things that you can confirm, the things that are almost for certain, save for maybe some extensive reshoots, we have hyper focus on the characters of Johnny Cage and Kitana. So just everyone else takes a backseat to them, and largely backseat is even being nice from what some of these people are saying that were in the test screenings. Which isn't exactly a bad thing. Like, it's going to be weird because we did spend a whole movie establishing what the tournament is, who the other characters are, and now we're going to establish more characters because we have Shao Kahn, Molina, Kitana, and Johnny Cage at the very least to establish. And Baraka, we know Baraka is going to be in it at this point as well. Though it sounds like Baraka also is going to be playing like third fiddle almost. Yeah, so hyper focus on Johnny Cage. Apparently, Carl Urban, much like most of the community has been saying, Carl Urban's a little old to be playing Johnny Cage, though he is a very talented actor, so I'm sure he does fine. It's just like it takes you out of it because he is significantly older than the rest of the cast. And then we also have some resurrections, which we anticipated from the way they ended the first movie. So they played the first movie safe enough that they can still potentially give us a good story. It sounds like it's not going to be a great story, but as more details come out about this, we will be talking about it a little bit more. I'm still hopeful, but that's just because I'm a bit of a fanboy. I'm not going to even play games about that. Yeah, that's what we got for Mortal Kombat 2. Oh, man. Hopefully they fix a lot of stuff. Anyway, let's move into our suggestions this week. Movie suggestion for the week. Speaking of Hellboy, go watch Guillermo del Toro's first Hellboy movie, because that sets the standard for what the rest of the live-action Hellboy movies must meet. The Golden Army, the second Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movie, exceeded that standard, and then we got the David Harbour Hellboy, which didn't even get halfway to that standard. So that's kind of the where the bar sits, is the first Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movie. It's fantastic. You got some Lovecraftian stuff going on in there. You got some World War II action going on in there. Oh, it's something for everybody to enjoy. You've got the voice of Niles Crane for Abe Sapien. It's just a good time all around. That is your suggestion for movies this week. Go watch Hellboy. I honestly don't know where it's streaming right now, but yeah, check it out.
Maybe. It's classified.
And this week in the rumor mill, nerds, we might be seeing a Sydney Sweeney Jedi in Star Wars. That's apparently in the rumor mill. We also have Friday the 13th. Now that those rights have been settled, we have a rumor for 2 separate video games in the works. Plus, we have Wolverine apparently getting a chance to do in live action one of the things that the fans love from the comics, and that's fight a big green monster. We'll talk about which big green monster that is in just a second, but that's what we got this week coming at you for rumors. No confirmations or refutations, no new sources for old rumors, just new rumors. So let's do this. George Clooney is our first one. George Clooney is reportedly going to be joining the MCU in a very specific way. Nick Fury is how apparently he's going to be joining the MCU. Now, through the course of taking the notes and finding the rumors, apparently I did not write down for which rumor or for which movie this was supposed to be. In my head, it's Deadpool and Wolverine, because Deadpool and Wolverine is going to deal with multiverse rather extensively. Also, Secret Wars is happening, which is going to deal with multiverse rather extensively, but that's just a little ways down the road. So that changes the percentage a little bit depending on which movie it's for. We're going to go off of my first instinct that it was supposed to be for Deadpool, because I didn't write it in the notes, because, say it with me, class, I take amazing notes. Yes, I do. Yeah, assuming that's the movie, we're looking at about 60% likely, because George Clooney is definitely leaning towards doing some fan servicey stuff, some real quick single day shoot kind of stuff, just because he's focusing on his directing, it would seem, a little bit more these days, and also getting a little old. So, you know, it is what it is. If, though, it is supposed to be for the Secret Wars, and I'll just have to follow up with this next week, and I apologize, but if that's what the rumor was supposed to be, then that increases it slightly, because that gives it a little bit more room for them to book and pay for George Clooney, assuming Deadpool makes them money, etc., etc. So that's what we got for George Clooney. Let's move over to Lucasfilm. We have Sydney Sweeney is apparently going to be donning a Jedi uniform in the Star Wars universe. So we have a couple of significant things playing in the favor of this rumor. One, Sydney Sweeney's kind of an it girl right now for whatever reason. Like her last, I don't know, I don't remember what the most recent movie was because I didn't see it, and I, again, take amazing notes. But Madam Web was garbage and she did poorly. And then before that, she was in something else, not the Euphoria show. She's in a different movie that also did poorly. She did all right in Euphoria. That show's done fine. And then again, her more recent movie, I think, did well with critics, which it definitely doesn't say much, but it might have made money. I don't remember. Either way, she's an it girl right now. She is significantly in the pop culture conversation. And she's female, plus, you know, the people on the side of the Comicsgate and the people who are more critical of pop culture tend to like her a little bit generally anyway. So you're going to make two sides of this social political coin happy by casting her in a movie. I think that's a significant win. This also is one of those rumors that's unverifiable. You cannot verify that company wants to do a thing, because most of the time want to happens behind the scenes, and there's never going to be anyone that comes out and says, oh yeah, I am somebody who works officially for Lucasfilm and I can say definitively that we want Sydney Sweeney to do a thing. It's not how it works. So there's no way to verify this unless they actually cast her and that gets announced, at which point that would kind of be a confirmation. Or it could have just happened naturally or quickly or something like that. So as it stands right now, because we are kind of far away, there are also multiple sources, but two different versions of this rumor. One of them is that Sydney Sweeney is going to be in a Star Wars movie, presumably as the star of said Star Wars movie. Or the other variation of this rumor is that she's going to be in the Rey Star Wars movie, which kind of also lends to its credence because, you know, the future of the Force is female, as Kathleen Kennedy wants to say. So yeah, 75% likely, because all of the things that are stacking up in line, even the things that kind of play against it, don't fully play against it. So 75% likely we will be seeing Sydney Sweeney don a Jedi uniform or a Sith uniform, one of the two, in the future for Lucasfilm. Next up, we have Friday the 13th video games. I said that right, plural. 2 video games are part of this rumor. So with the rights having been reined in, we now know that they want to make a universe around Friday the 13th. They made that announcement back in like February, I believe it was. So that part is not rumor. That is actually happening. They're moving forward with this. The rumor here is that we're getting 2 video games. The announcement said TV shows, movies, and games, probably comic books too, but I remember specifically those 3. So, video games. The asymmetrical multiplayer game that came out a few years back was very popular amongst fans. They had to shut it down because of the issue with the rights. So presumably at least one of these games is going to be a successor to that. And then the other game, according to the rumor, is going to be a narrative-driven horror game. So very presumably you're not going to be playing as Jason Voorhees in this game. The fact that we're getting both of these games at the same time in this rumor is the biggest thing playing against it. Because unless there's 2 different developers at work here, which is a big ask for a movie tie-in franchise for gaming, that's fairly big ask. So very likely they have one developer actively working on one of these 2 games, which, I don't know, my money kind of goes towards the asymmetrical multiplayer game, just because, again, did super well the first time around. The developers didn't want to shut it down, but they had to. They are finishing up development on the Killer Clowns game, so they have the time, it would seem, you would assume anyway. There is not enough for the narrative game to be true. So the fact that these 2 are tied to the same rumor is the only thing that's dropping this as low as it's going. And even then, it's still on the likely side of the 50% mark. We're going to say 55% likely that we'll be seeing both of these games in the near future. Near future meaning probably the beginning of the next console generation. If it was just one or the other, that would be much more likely. But since it's both, we can't, it feels like that's just not the way it's going to play out, because it's very likely not the way it's going to play out. Next up, we have the MCU TV. So the next phase of the television shows has rumors all around. So there's a list here. We're going to give each one of these shows its own percentage likelihood that it is actively in development, because that's the rumor says. The rumor says that we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different shows that are going into phase 7 for the TV. That's a whole thing unto itself. It's phase 5, or is it 6? Either way, it's not phase 7. It's the shows and the movies are all the same universe now, so they're all the same phase. So the fact that I didn't make the graphic that you're looking at on the screen right now, but whoever made it is not educated on the way these things work. But let's get into the shows that are actually on this list. Each one of these individually. Vision Quest, Nova, Blonde Phantom, Punisher, Wiccan, White Tiger, and Strange Tales. All of these are rumored to be in the works in either pre or current or active development. All right, so let's go through these. First up, Vision Quest. This is kind of the worst kept secret as far as the Marvel shows goes. So yeah, this one's 90% likely we will be seeing Vision Quest in the near future. Nova profile has been raised a fair amount recently. There's been some conversation of he's been mentioned in the movies, but still kind of an unknown for normies, and also still a little bit of work needs to go into establishing it before we get into the series, I think. So we're going to say 50% likely that Nova will be getting a series. Also, previously it was supposed to be a movie, wasn't it? And then Blonde Phantom is not a character that most normies or most casual readers of comic books really knows. I do not know who Blonde Phantom is. That is definitely series in the MCU. That just seems silly. And then Punisher with John Barenthal cast. We already know it's likely he's going to be getting something thrown his way, be it a role in a movie or a series unto himself. That remains to be seen. So I would like to think that it's going to be a series unto himself and a role into the movie, but still could kind of go either way. We're going to say 60% likely he's actively in development, the Punisher. Wiccan has been part of the conversation a fair bit recently, but still kind of an unknown as far as normies are concerned, as far as casual readers are concerned. A lot of people kind of just know who he is because he's the son of the Scarlet Witch, and that's about it. So he's going to get his own series. There is honestly enough that it could go either way for Wiccan. So we're going to say 50% likely there. White Tiger is another one that just doesn't have enough of a profile. A little bit more because of the relation to Black Panther. So White Tiger, we're going to say about 30% likely, so a little bit more than the Blonde Phantom. And then Strange Tales. Presumably it will be an anthology series, the Strange Tales. They've done well with anthologies before in that, you know, we got the Jedi one for the Lucasfilm. We got the What If series for Marvel. All of these things have done well with them. It seems that they kind of know what they're doing. But it feels slightly too obscure at the moment for them to go that direction. So we're going to say either way, 50-50, right down the middle. From there, we have Young Avengers in the rumor mill. This time it's a different rumor. We're not going to rumor that it's going to happen. We're rumored now that it's not going to happen. They rumored to have canceled it. It seems like we've got too much forward momentum pushing us into a Young Avengers show, or movie rather. So I can't imagine this one's necessarily true. Though we do know that they're not making a lot of money. We do know that they're trying to scale back releases. So yeah, there's a little bit there, but not much. We're going to say 40% likely that we are not going to be getting a Young Avengers movie. And then let's get into kind of the big meat and potatoes, Wolverine, as far as it pertains to who is going to cameo as Wolverine in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, as well as what variants of Wolverine we're going to be seeing. We have two separate rumors here. First one is Henry Cavill, once again rumored to be playing Wolverine to some degree. This time, though, the rumor says he's going to be the yellow and brown suit Wolverine from so many years in the comic books. And I believe that's also the variant that we got in the Children of the Atom video game. So yeah, Henry Cavill playing yellow and brown. That one's about 20%. Not because we're not going to see yellow and brown suit Wolverine. I think we are going to see that. But Henry Cavill, busy dude, not likely to be doing the thing in cameo for Marvel. Just doesn't seem likely. Probably has some sort of contract with somebody else saying he's not going to do something like that. So super not likely there. But will we see a zombie variant of Wolverine? I'm going to put that one at about 90% because we already know zombies are in the MCU. They were part of the What If show. What If show is kind of canon. So sure, universe that is zombie universe, yeah, 90% we'll see zombie Wolverine. Then let's cut over to DC for just a moment. This is the Snyderverse specifically. Zack Snyder is teasing that we're potentially going to be seeing the Justice League, his version of the Justice League, on the big screen. So a theatrical release for the Snyder cut of the Justice League, the long version. I mean, Zack Snyder kind of gets what Zack Snyder wants to a certain degree. I don't see that this is unlikely really at all. 90% likely we're going to see Zack Snyder release his Justice League into theaters. And then Spider-Man is our next one. Back over to Marvel. We have, this also has to do with the Deadpool Wolverine movie. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is the next rumor to be in the cameo list for Deadpool and Wolverine. This seems super unlikely just because the whole Sony situation is so sticky. If they were going to do any variant of Spider-Man, it would not be that one. It would very likely be the Tom Holland variant of Spider-Man. I think I said Scorpion. I didn't mean to say Scorpion. Spider-Man. So 30% likely we'll be seeing Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in Deadpool and Wolverine. And then our big rumor for the episode, we have also to do with Deadpool and Wolverine. This one's kind of huge though. Wolverine battling the Hulk in Deadpool and Wolverine. I want this to happen so bad. Will we see? There's a lot of issues with the rights to the Hulk as well, which is why we haven't gotten a whole lot of Hulk. Not just the Mark Ruffalo situation, him being kind of an idiot, but the whole Universal owning partial rights to the Hulk as well just is getting in the way of a lot of things. But we do know that Feige is doing things and they've got a lot of money, so we're going to put this just over halfway. We're going to say 55% likely that we'll see the epic battle between Wolverine and Hulk like we get in the comic books so often and so greatly. I was 55%. I wanted to happen a lot, but this is about as good as we got. All right, so that is the end of the rumor mill. No speculation to speak of this week, nerds. Just that's rumors. So yeah, let's go. Let's move on. Okay, so housekeeping and stuff from the things and the stuff. I was planning on doing an episode of That Just Happened this week, even though last week's episode still isn't uploaded as I'm filming this week's episode, but I'm having some crazy technical issues right now, so no That Just Happened episode this week. We will be posting last week's episode hopefully before this goes live. Also, 2 weeks out, there's the Squirrel Nut Zippers concert, so we're going to probably be talking about that in the That Just Happened episode for that week, and then 3 weeks out, we are going to be taking approximately 2 weeks off. So the end of the month for July, we'll be taking 2 weeks off of the news show. I'm trying to get some reaction videos to put up so that we're not without content, but we will be taking some vacation time for 2 weeks. There will be minor content updates, possibly. I'm not going to dedicate any time to it or commit any time to it ahead of time until I know the full situation of the vacation. But as it stands right now, there will be minor releases between the last 2 weeks of July and the first week or so of August. So that is what's coming up here in the housekeeping section of the show. Also, very likely going to be filmed in the next week or so is the shout out show for the month. So yeah, that's all that we got going on behind the scenes right here at Generally Nerdy. Thank you very much, nerds. I gotta make this real quick before we go. Always remember that if Generally Nerdy is properly here, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things. I love your faces, and now let's get the hell out of here.